Welcome. I'm Halcyon. This is Hug Nation. Today, the topic is a return to love. Now, a week ago was the U.S. presidential election, and it did not go the way that I was hoping, was not going the way that I thought it was going to. And the night of the election, I freaked out. Publicly, I displayed a level of fear and panic. I posted some posts and comments and a video even of me crying pretty dramatically. But that's where I was at. I was trying to, as always, be authentic and genuine in how I was feeling. I eventually took a lot of those posts down as I realized that I didn't want to be anchored to that level of suffering from then on. One of the challenges of any sort of online communication is that whatever you're feeling in the moment might pass. And then anytime someone comments or engages in a conversation with that content, it like pulls you back to that headspace. And I was not willing to return to that headspace over and over, especially when the next day I saw that my crying video that felt like such an honest expression of my headspace was being passed around by a number of Trump supporters with the hashtag liberal tears. Oh, they taste so good. Yum, 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 yum. So many people reached out, and I so appreciate everyone who was concerned about me. I was distraught. I continue to be distraught, but I think, in a better place. What place is that? I don't know, man. It's really hard. It's really hard to figure out like where you can be grounded, where you can hold on to something that feels good and makes sense and feels like a solid path forward. We're kind of going through this pattern right now where every expression is criticized by somebody. People were talking about wearing a safety pin as saying like I'm a safe space for people of color or people who are being in unsafe situations in the aftermath of hate crimes and terrorism that was happening in our communities after the election. And then after that, there was all this backlash. And now all these articles and posts saying like, how embarrassing, take off that pin, how dare you, like how condescending that is to be wearing that safety pin, you're showing your white privilege. And it's like, So are you saying, just tell me, who can I donate money to? Is that all that I'm allowed to do? Is that the only, positive action I can do? There really is, I think, this dangerous place right now because everybody has a voice that even if 99% of the people are like, hey, we're all in this together, let's all, wear a safety pin of solidarity, then there's going to be one person who says, you should be ashamed of yourself. And then it's like, well, I don't want anybody to be ashamed. That's the thing about offense. That even if the offense is not justified, I have to take it into consideration. That's the thing with anything. If I do something that offends somebody, the argument is over whether or not they deserve to be offended. The argument or the only issue at hand is, am I going to continue doing this action knowing that it causes this reaction in somebody? If I bought a t-shirt with this old cool eagle design, which I did once, and then somebody saw the picture online and said, that design is from an old Nazi SS troop. And I was like, oh, but I love this shirt. And obviously I can't wear it anymore. So I have stopped wearing a safety pin, and I don't know what to do so much for Standing Rock. I know a bunch of burners who are on their way and have been there and come back, and I've donated money to groups that are bringing things there. And then I've also read these articles being super upset at burners, and who have brought their energy and vibe into the sacred space. I'm like, so it's this tightrope between being helpful and being offensive, being condescending, flaunting privilege, being compassionate. Anyone else feeling this? So I'm doing what I can do, and that is growing my Movember mustache. One other thing that I feel like is a pretty solid bit of advice to be a helper advocate was that advice of what to do if you see someone being picked on, or if you see someone being someone acting in a mean, bigoted way towards someone. Say you see on a park bench there's a woman in a garb that labels her Muslim, and someone starts attacking them. And this was actually super helpful for me, because I sometimes think, would I stand up to somebody who's yelling? And like, I would like to think that I would stand up to them. And what good would that do, especially if that person is angry and violent, because I'm a wuss, you know? I probably would just get them fired up, because now not only did they make this Muslim woman cry, they also made this pink-haired guy bleed. But this comic was saying that what you do in these situations is strike up conversation with the person who's being attacked. Cut the offender out of the bubble of communication and attention, and just engage them. Oh, hi, hey, do you come to this park often? Start up a conversation and just keep going down that road. Oh, do you watch much television? I just finished watching Mad Men, and oh my gosh, you know, I wish I could drink like that on the job. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you don't drink. Well, that's, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And just ignore the offender instead of being a hero, and humanize this person. And then if that does not work and the person does not get diffused, then ask that person if they'd like to leave the physical location and go get a bite to eat or some coffee or something like that. And I was like, yes. Well, at least until somebody makes a post saying, how condescending, you know, how dare you flaunt your white privilege and think that you can strike up conversation with someone just because they're being yelled at. I don't know. But for now, mustache, that advice, and I no longer grab people's butts in public restrooms. I think that's pretty much, I can be on point that those are all good advice to be on the good side of activism, right? You know, I made one post just trying to collect my thoughts and trying to organize how I was thinking, and I preface it with this long thing saying, look, I'm not telling anyone how to feel. I'm not saying everything's okay, because I see so many people reacting to every expression with upset. You know, like if I say, hey, there might be people out there that voted for Trump that weren't racist, and people react and go, don't tell me how to feel. I'm like, oh, that's not what I meant. And I'm sorry that if me seeking out some path of harmony is in contrast to what you think has to happen right now. A lot of people are very attached to the idea that we need to stay angry and stay active. And I think that that's, I'm not against that. I just want to make sure that that the action makes sense. I don't want to be angry at someone who is maybe better served by compassion and information, education. I don't mean education like, here's 20 reasons why Trump and their followers are fascists. I mean more like, hey, here's my life situation that actually is massively impacted by these policies. And, you know, I'd love to understand on a human-to-human level why that's not important, or why it's less important, or what's more important. Not in a because you're wrong way, but because I want to understand. And it gives someone the space for them to go, well, because of this. And you go, okay, I get that. You make a good point. That's a huge concern. In any case, leaving someone space to change their mind is one thing that's missing, I think, in a lot of this dialogue. While you're debating with someone, you call them if you believe that, you are such an idiot, or like, then the other person has no choice but to fight till the death. Because if they change their mind and agree with you, they're in essence saying, you're right, I'm an idiot. And it takes a very big person to turn the other cheek in that way. So, I have not participated in any marches, and not saying that isn't a valid expression of frustration. I'm not totally clear on what the message is. If the message is, I would have rather my candidate won, and I'm angry, and this expression in showing solidarity with these other people who also would have rather won, that makes sense to me. I don't see the dots, how it connects from a demonstration of upset to change happening. And I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm saying I don't understand at this point that path of action or of movement. I've been thinking about this kind of scenario as like a metaphor. Imagine if I was charged with a crime and I believed to be innocent, and I believed that my case was so good that when the opposite side's lawyer came to me with a plea bargain and said, would you like to serve 2 weekends of community service, or would you rather spend 6 months in jail? And I was, basically accept the 2 weeks of community service, or you risk going to jail. I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to jail, so I'm going to take it to court. And then I go to court, and the judge is this like super anti-pink hair guy, and he's like, oh, drooling at the mouth. The jury, for some reason, is not my peers. I was blown away that these people are actually in my community. I go to jail. This is not the outcome that I expected. What do I do? Is there anything that I can do to stop that? Can I contact my lawyer? Or am I going to jail? So in jail, what do I do? Do I scream and bang the bars all night long so that all my fellow inmates know that I'm upset? No. Is there a way to scream and yell and get that voice heard by someone that might be able to pass that information or something on? Maybe, if there's a way, but simply yelling and screaming from my cell is just a demonstration of my disappointment and my anger and my fear. Now, am I going to act out and be rude and angry and attack the guards every time I see them? Not unless there's something that can benefit me by. If I act out and attack them simply so I can be labeled to be a problem case, simply so I can be locked in solitary, simply so I can lose my privileges, no longer get access to pen and paper, no longer get access to the legal library to try to help my life, I need to be very clear what the intention of my protest is. So while I am using the legal library, while I am using the gym and getting my prison body, while I am trying to find ways to better my situation, is there anything else that I can do? And if so, do it. I would like to think that as I saw injustice on the prison yard, that I would also speak up. But I also know I would probably go a little bit into survival mode. And thinking about that scenario of me being in prison and being scared and alone and afraid for physical violence and wondering, would I stand up if there was a guy who was about to get picked on by a gang of skinheads, helps me to really kind of, that would be a very rapid education into what life without privilege is like. Hopefully I can use this thought exercise to get that lesson without actually having to ever be in that situation. But I think about also in this scenario a story that I heard Byron Katie tell about visiting a prison and her speaking and doing the work with people who are incarcerated. And at one time in the office of one of the wardens or the guards, she heard down the hall this screaming, this pained screaming. And Byron Katie's all, is that coming from the hospital? Is that someone who's injured? Is that, what happened to that man? And they're like, no, he's just, this is someone who is just, they're in prison and they're hurting. It can be a mental torture to be in that state. And she talked about how significant that belief is, that there was no physical pain happening to this person, and yet they were experiencing, their story was causing them such a level of suffering that it was comparable to that of being physically tortured. And that from that perspective, you could start to see, oh gosh, how powerful our thoughts are. You think about movies like Life is Beautiful, with the father trying to keep his kid happy within the Holocaust. Or Viktor Frankl, a non-fictional guy who actually was in a concentration camp and worked to try to find ways to find peace in thoughts outside of any external circumstances. And I'm not saying that this is an excuse to let go of responsibility in the world. I'm saying that this is a process of letting go of my state of panic and letting go of my state of surrender in every way to one of letting go of all attachment to outcome, all attachment to circumstances outside of my control. It feels very much that I'm 5 miles behind where I was last week, and 10 miles behind where I thought I was going to be this week. But in the end, what changes along this path from my physical, actual actions? Either way, what I was going to do was put one foot in front of the other. And so I find myself exactly where I've always been. Be present, have integrity, align with love, and then take the next action that is in my truth. Be present, have integrity, align with love, and then feel the call, that next single action. I don't know what the next step is. I just know it involves a next step. So whatever your pull of action is, whatever your reaction of non-action is, whatever your feelings are, I recognize and honor and appreciate you listening to your truth. Hopefully there is an element of love in all of that, even in the anger. Because you can be in conflict while also being loving. So says the phone. Wait, maybe I think that's our president-elect wanting to talk about this? Just stay present and feel the call, and who knows what miracles might happen. Wow. Oh, he's shy, hung up. I'll call you back. So, in conclusion, thank you for having the courage to simply stay present in all of this. And if you have to crawl up in bed every once in a while, I support that action too. I love you and I appreciate you, and I am so grateful for the space of being able to be authentic and genuine, even when that does not have this presence of strength. Because I think we need to let ourselves feel so that we can then tune into this deep divine truth that will give the strength to act from a place of powerful love. Thank you. I love you. I wonder if he'll call back. There's a few appointments or cabinet positions that I've got my eye on, so maybe that's what that's all about. Or ambassadorship, actually. A couple nights ago, I had this thought like, I should travel. Like, I don't have a job. I'm single. I don't have a lease. I have a paid off car. Can I go backpacking? Or travel around the US? Could I put a call out and say, hey, who can gather in their living room or a nearby rec center so I can do a live Hug Nation someplace and travel the world and I guess just the world until Elon Musk gets his act together. So that's a possibility. So maybe the ambassadorship is what the point is. Canada is coming up a lot lately. And I not in a retreat to Canada as, I think a lot of people feel like you were like in college and you had a good friend who is your best boyfriend, but not a boyfriend. And you go, man, if we ever make it to 40, let's just agree to marry each other. So that's kind of like a lot of people are like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, Canada, remember when we said we'd be our backup? Are you still single? Meanwhile, Canada is like, hey, I've got a pretty happy dating life. I don't need your little sloppy seconds settling for me. I wanted to read a note that I saw Rob Bresney post in a comment. Rob Bresney, the author of Pronoia, one of my favorite books, and taught me the word that has been so instrumental in my philosophies. Pronoia is the opposite of paranoia. Pronoia is the belief that the world, the universe, is conspiring in your favor. He says, Pronoia is fueled by a drive to cultivate happiness and a determination to practice an aggressive form of gratitude that systematically identifies the things that are working well. But it is not a soothing diversion meant for timid Pollyannas strung out on optimistic delusions. It is not a feel-good New Age fantasy used to deny the harsh facts about existence. Those of us who perceive the world pronoiacally refuse to be polite shills for sentimental hopefulness. On the contrary, we build our optimism not through a repression of difficulty, but rather a vigorous engagement with it. We understand that the best way to attract blessings is to grapple with the knottiest enigmas. Each fresh puzzle is a potential source of future bliss, an exciting teaching they may usher us to the next breakthrough. Do you want to be a pronoic player? Blend anarchistic rebelliousness with open-hearted exuberance. Root your insurrectory fervor in expansive joy instead of withering hatred. Enjoy saying no, but don't make it in the wellspring of your vitality. Be fueled by blood-red yeses that rip against the grain of comfortable ugliness. Boom! Mic drop! Oh, let us have a hug. Let us gather and celebrate this moment. Let's recognize that we are all more alike than we are different, and the world would rather hug you than hurt you. I still believe that. Do I still believe 100% of the world would rather hug me than hurt me? No. I don't think it was ever about absolutes, but it was about the way in which I want to perceive the other, the stranger, the them.